Speaking of them, I'm a Bears fan. Tough week. Aaron Rodgers. I've been over on this show how he has become my father. He has adopted me, and I don't like it. What's going on, folks? And welcome into Monkey Knife Fights Thursday Night Football Preview Show. I'm Connor Rowntree. We're joined by our guy Jim from RotoWire. Jim, we were just saying before coming on air, it's probably the best day of my week is Thursday when I get to see your lovely face and we get to talk a little Thursday night football. How you doing, Jim?
I'm doing well. Yeah, this has become a highlight of my week. I look forward to this Monkey Knife Fight show with you. We've been having a good time for 2 weeks. We're going to keep giving the people what they want.
Yeah, no, for sure. But I guess the game on the field this week versus last week may not exactly be what the people want, but hey, it's football on a Thursday night. I'm not complaining. It should be a ton of fun. And we got an interesting matchup here because the Brownies, well, they kind of blew it against, that was the story, right? And we were talking before coming on air. Week 1, the story was the missed field goals. Week 2 was the fourth quarter comebacks.
Man.
I don't have words for it. And if you let the Jets come back, the Steelers, coached by Mike Tomlin, if you have a bet on the Browns tonight, you better watch till the clock ticks 0.
We really have to blame Nick Chubb. Nick Chubb scores the touchdown. All he has to do is fall down the 1 yard. Like, the Jets have no timeouts. There's 2 minutes left. 3 kneels down. Game's over. Next thing you know, they bust the coverage. Corey Davis, 68 yards later, onside kick, and there we have it. But Nick Chubb, it was completely avoidable. You assume the coaching staff talked about that, but maybe they didn't.
Well, 3 touchdowns for Nick Chubb, and we might as well get into the props now with the quarterbacks. But man, oh man, what a performance did he have last week? And now we got Mitchell Tribusky. Speaking of them, I'm a Bears fan. Tough week. Aaron Rodgers. I've been over on this show how he has become my father. He has adopted me, and I don't like it. Mitchell Trubisky, more or less 191 yards now. Last week, he was not very good. I was about to say serviceable, but a passer rating in the 70s, much lower than this line. I'm going to take the less on Mitch Trubisky here. He was only pressured 6 times and still found a way to get sacked 3 times. This guy's a deer in the headlights under pressure. I'm a Bears fan, as you well know now by now, Jim. I got to see a whole lot of Mitch, and yeah, Myles Garrett's going to be coming for some sacks tonight. So I'm going to take the less on the Mitchell Trubisky prop. How do you see Mitch playing on Thursday Night Football?
Well, I'm glad we're starting out in agreement because we haven't exactly been doing that in prior weeks. So this is a great way to start the show. But I will say this, Mitch is going to avoid a lot of pressure because he is actually throwing the ball out quicker than Ben Roethlisberger did. And that is blowing me away. But the problem is, Mitch is trying to be safe. You can tell he doesn't want to lose his job. So he's not throwing the ball downfield. Everything is quick and short so he doesn't get hit. But like you mentioned, he still gets hit because you can't get the ball out in 1.8 seconds every play. So it is not good. And this 198.5 more or less yardage number, he hasn't even gone over yet in 2 games. You have a 194, a 168. Now, let's face it, they played the Patriots. They're not as talented, but they scheme up pretty well. And Cleveland has been bad. They were burned by Joe Flacco for over 300 yards last week. But the Browns, even though they've been middling in coverage, Denzel Ward's going to be fine. Like you said, Myles Garrett's going to get his done, but it's going to be dinking and dunking, and that's not getting to 200 yards. So I'm with you on the less.
Well, let's just talk about Denzel Ward for a second, because last week he was beat for 5 receptions and 112 yards. So if that does open up, I'm still with you on the less, but it could be a nice little spot to get a Deontay Johnson or maybe a Najee Harris out of the backfield for a few yards. What do you think about that play there, Jim?
So Deontay Johnson, his like superpower is getting open in a microsecond. So he's immediately open off the snap. And so that's been perfect for Mitchell Trubisky because Mitch wants to get it out. Now we're not looking at yardage after the catch because let's face it, Mitch is not leading you into the yards after the catch. He's getting it on your body, but often you got to turn back to get it or it's not in stride. And so Deontay is going to definitely get the catches here. That's not an issue. Yardage, that's going to be a bigger problem because Mitch just is not accurate. He just wants to get the ball out.
Now we get Jacoby Brissett. His line now at 185.5, Jim. I mean, last week he was more than serviceable. By no means is he an all-star quarterback, but when you just show, I believe, 229 yards and a 98.9 QB quarterback rating, pardon me, that's more than serviceable. And I know the Pittsburgh defense is solid, and I feel like you're going to see a whole lot of Nick Chubb. This is one of those lines where I'm gonna be stressing throughout the game based on game script, with Kareem Hunt averaging over 4.5 yards per carry last week, with Nick Chubb averaging over 5 yards per carry last week. Just knowing this is a divisional slugfest, anything can happen. You're going to want those running backs going. You're going to want to beat up that Steelers defensive front. So I'm going to take the less on Jacoby Brissett just because of projected game script. But by no means is that a knock on Jacoby Brissett, because I think he's filled in valiantly for the Cleveland Browns.
You know, the thing that Jacoby Brissett really improved upon in week 2 is he got the ball to Amari Cooper. In week 1, it was 6 targets for Cooper, 11 for Donovan Peoples-Jones. And I love Donovan Peoples-Jones, but Amari Cooper is a player that's going to get open. He knows the nuances of the route running and the zone defense they face, where to find the openings and how to kind of put the lean in there to get a few extra yards. And we saw last week, Amari Cooper was featured, went over 100 yards, almost half of the passing yards Brissett had. Now, they were playing the Jets, and understand the Jets do not have a good secondary. In week 1, Jacoby only threw for 147 yards. Carolina is quite good against the pass. But you mentioned earlier, it really is about game script. And the one advantage, though, that we're going to have is TJ Watt's going to be out for a while, and that really lessens that pass rush. And it looks like the Browns are getting a couple players back. But all that said, you're right. He's not throwing for many yards here. This is going to be a game script in which the run is going to be paramount. If neither team gets out to a big lead, neither is going to feel the need to be aggressive in the passing game. So I am with you. It's another less.
Yeah, I think it's going to be one of those games. It's going to be a smash mouth football game, not necessarily a lot of points, and a good old divisional rivalry. We might see some players get heated. Hopefully we won't see Myles Garrett try to kill someone with their own helmet, but you never know. Divisional football. Let's get into it now. Deontay Johnson, we were just talking about him. Can he find the seams? I like this line here. I think this is an interesting one. 5.5 receptions. So I know you can find he's about 13.5 fantasy points, 55.5 receiving yards on Monkey Knife Fight. But let's look at this one, the 5.5 receptions, because he really has become Trubisky's go-to target in the passing game. And he's going to get the target share to get the 6 catches. The question is, will the ball be on target? I'll take the more, just because of the volume and the target share, but there's not a lot of confidence in that pick.
You know, again, we're 3 for 3 today. This is a good day. This is a good day. I'm definitely, yes. I'm on the more here. And let's look at the numbers so far, just real basic. We talked earlier about how Mitch just wants to get it out of his hands quickly, and Deontay Johnson gets open in a nanosecond. Well, he already has 7 catches against Cincinnati, 6 against the Steelers. And those are tougher matchups. And so we go back to last year, and I know it was a different quarterback, but against Cleveland, 6 catches, 8 catches. And all those trends and the way he's being used, yeah, he's going over 5.5 catches here. He'll have more. It might just be 6, but he's going over more catches.
Yeah, and here's another one that I like for a receiver with some more. Amari Cooper's line on Monkey Knife Fight, 50.5 yards, Jim. And based off what we saw last week, 9 receptions on 10 targets, over 100 yards and a touchdown, 50 yards. I have to take the more. I have to.
You know, this is funny because that number is pretty much his average of 2 weeks. He had 17 yards in week 1. He had 101 in week 2, and that's real close to that 50-ish, more or less number. So it's like right in the middle there. He didn't come close either week. He was way over and way under. The fact he did have 6 targets in week 1 and it just didn't work out, at least we know there's a base there. And I have to think that he won't get the 100 yards like last week, but I have to think that Brissett is realizing I need to go to this guy. He is our number one receiver. He's a very good route runner. And Pittsburgh's like bottom 6 in coverage. And again, with no TJ Watt, it's going to give a little extra time when they have to throw. They love that play action in Cleveland. You fake that run to Chubb or Hunt, and that opens things up for Amari Cooper. So it's going to be tight, and there's not going to be a lot of passing yards. But yeah, I think he's going over. We're 4 for 4 here.
Yeah, and I think, and that's not one that I would sweat in the first half. If he's only got 10 yards on one target in the first half, a couple targets, don't be sweating that, because it's going to be establishing the run to open up those passing lanes. And as Jim said, it's the play action that's the bread and butter of any Pro Bowl receiver. You get the play action pass, you lob it down, and you let your playmaker go get the ball. So I'm completely with you, Jim. We got some good vibes going on Monkey Knife Fight for Thursday Night Football. I'm loving it. Now let's talk about the running backs. Nick Chubb, we talked about the game script. His line, 84.5 yards. This is one that I'm going to have to take more on. He's just averaging over 5 yards per carry last week, 3 touchdowns. You mentioned he probably should have only had 2, but that's not what we're breaking down today. No, and I don't want the Cleveland commenters just being like, yeah, we know that. Anyway, I'm going to take the more.
I think we'll diverge a bit here. It's not with the utmost confidence. I mean, he had 141 yards in the opener, 87 last week against the Jets. The Jets are not a staunch run defense, but I really go back to this divisional matchup. Pittsburgh is very, very familiar with Nick Chubb. Last year, they held him to 61 and 58 yards. That wasn't even close in 2 games. And, based on that and the quarterback play, Baker Mayfield, I don't think that's any great shakes different than Jacoby Brissett. Shouldn't say that, but it's true. And so the fact that Pittsburgh has kind of had his number, and you can go back to 2019, he had a 58-yard game. Now he has gone over that number against Pittsburgh in 2 of the last 5, but it hasn't been recently. And I do think Pittsburgh comes in with the idea we need to slow down Nick Chubb and don't worry about the passing game. If they want to beat us through there, they can. I think it looks like a Kareem Hunt game. You know how they just have those Kareem Hunt games? The change of pace is what's going to get Pittsburgh off their task, because they're going to be looking for the physicality of the middle, where Hunt's going to come in with the speed change up, and that's going to be a problem. But again, we're close on this one, but I'm going to go less.
I like it. Hey, I love the breakdown. I think Kareem Hunt's primed to have a massive game. He as I said earlier, I believe it was 4.5 yards per carry against the Jets last week, and hopefully he'll be able to find some seams on the outside and get that edge and turn it upfield. But as you said, right, you always have to know in these divisional matchups, Mike Tomlin's a heck of a coach. Yes. And he's going to have a scheme. So the Chubb line, it's a battle. I'm going more based off the share. I'm going more based off of the momentum that he's carrying in them last week. I'm going more based on the fact that he's going to be running angry. And I think all the Browns should be playing angry. Now, Najee Harris, rushing yards. I haven't seen them. I haven't seen many rush yards from Najee Harris this season. 54.5. If this was last year, I would be like, give me the more, but cue the Billy Idol. But in this matchup against the Browns in Cleveland with Mitch Trubisky, I'm going to let Jim go first. I have no idea. That's the honest. I've been flipping back and forth. My project everywhere I've looked, every research I've done, every game script I've come up with, he's right around 50 yards. So I have I don't know.
It is a tough call. So the first 2 weeks, he hasn't looked great. And I mean, it was Ben Roethlisberger last year. It's Mitch this year. So, I mean, the quarterback play was still inviting defenses to stop them. And they're not using Mitch's mobility. So it's not opening holes that would be there with the mobile quarterback. That's not there. And he hasn't done well against Cincinnati and New England. Now, both of those teams, especially New England's good against the run. Cincinnati's decent. But when Harris played them last year at Cleveland, he torched them in both games. He was all over the field doing well. So it's one of those things where I think he may just have good success against a defense that he shouldn't, but he's kind of had their number. And again, you talk about Mike Tomlin. Mike Tomlin understands how to attack this defense, and I think he's going to barely get it out of him. But I think Harris is going to nick and barely get it over the top more.
Yeah, well, I'll ride with you. I like the breakdown. As I said, it's just he should be able to do it. but I don't get the enigma that is Najee Harris through the
Yes.
first 2 weeks. I can't crack it. I really cannot crack it. Now, there's just one prop here on Monkey Knife Fight that Jim, I have to exploit. This is I hope it's still on the site as a producer here. Brian is scrolling for it. 15.5 receiving yards for Najee Harris. Last week, he had 6 targets. He had 40 receiving yards. 15.5. Look, week 1, things didn't look great. All right. Mitchell Trubisky still getting his feet under him, but he loves the dip and dunk. At 15.5 receiving yards, that is the Billy Idol. More, cue it. I love it. There's no, I don't like one screen pass, one slant over the middle, one check down, 16 yards right there. Bam.
Yeah, I love that call because this is a matchup he could exploit too. And I think the main thing we're going to see here is that Myles Garrett's going to want to get that pass rusher there, and Mitch is going to want to dump the ball off, especially here. When they played New England, then, Harris was useful as a receiver. They weren't worried about pass rush. In Cincinnati, I get Trey Hendrickson, was great last year, but nonetheless, it's not changing your offense. But yeah, Myles Garrett, that changes your offense. So I think Harris is going to get a lot of targets here today. That's a beautiful call you made on that one.
Oh, thank you very much, Jim. Now let's get into some touchdown dancing. I absolutely love the touchdown dance. It's the best part of the week, really. Thursday Night Football touchdown dance with Jim. I'll get it kick-started. I like Kareem Hunt to get paid tonight. It's a big running back night for me. Realistically, it's just a projected game script. Everyone's gonna hate my 3 picks, but I'm riding with the 3 running backs. The 2-headed monster from Cleveland. I think Nick Chubb's gonna run angry, as I said. If they get close to the goal line, good luck denying him. And Najee Harris out of the backfield, as I said, from Mitch Trubisky. I think he could be in the passing game. And realistically, if the Steelers don't get Harris going, they could get their shit kicked, quite frankly. So are we allowed to swear on this one, Brian?
Absolutely.
All right, there we go. We're good to go. So there's the breakdown. They've got to run the football. Those are my 3 picks. The running backs, baby. 1950 style football. Hand it off and let's get mean.
Chuck Noll and the old school Pittsburgh Steelers. I'm going to be with you completely on 2 of these. Kareem Hunt has scored in 3 of his last 5 against the Steelers. We mentioned earlier, I think the change of pace that Hunt offers is a perfect change up, and I do think he finds the end zone here. And then Najee Harris scored both times against Cleveland last year, so he should be able to do that again. And again, we mentioned earlier, we think he's a focal point of the offense. The third one, Nick Chubb has only scored in 1 of his last 6 games against Pittsburgh. And like I mentioned earlier, I just think Mike Tomlin, when he sees Chubb on the field, I think they're going to sell out to stop him. And so I'm going to make my third choice, Pat Freiermuth, who did score in 1 of the games against them last year. And I do think, even though there are very good safeties in Cleveland, I do believe Pat Freiermuth at the goal line is an option. Now, there aren't going to be many touchdowns scored in this game, but we have the 3 that might find the end zone, and Nick Chubb's a good call as well.
Yeah, I think Freiermuth's a great call. Mitch Trubisky's really been targeting him through the first 2 weeks. He's second on the team in targets behind Deontay Johnson last week. It's a smart call, the big target inside the goal line. And then if you wanted to mix it up, another guy that we did talk about, Amari Cooper, right? If those run lanes are really getting exploited, though, those passing windows are going to open up. And the play action, there might be a deep shot to Amari Cooper. Get Cleveland rocking, get the fans into the game. So I think those are 5 viable picks for the people at home. And I think, realistically, if I don't want to be this bold, but I'm going to be this bold. When there is a touchdown scored in this game, it's going to be one of those 5. I'm that confident in it. Unless there's like a QB keep from the goal line and Mitch Trubisky does like his old Chicago Bears from 2018 when they were 12-4 and he flexes on the crowd and he goes, I'm back. And then he throws a pick 6 on the very next possession.
Oh, that's crazy. I love it. I could totally see Mitch spoiling the party, but it's not going to happen. Our picks are going to hit tonight.
All right, Jim, final predictions for Thursday Night Football in Cleveland, Steelers versus Browns.
Yeah, it's the conservative game plan, both sides, short week, divisional opponents, going to stay close. AFC North battle. I'd love to predict a tie here. I don't have the guts to do that. So I'm going to say Steelers 20-17. So that means I'm taking the Steelers plus the 5.5, and I'm barely taking the under 38 total on it.
Yeah, see, I like the under. I think the under's a really soft spot, or a really nice spot, pardon me. And then I'll actually flip it on you. I think Cleveland can get it done. I think they're just going to be too much. The rush attack, the balance between Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb, I think it's just going to be too consistent. And no matter what scheming that you can plan against it, Cleveland was embarrassed at home last week. You know, that's been a focal point in their practice. I would be surprised if they have a Rocky Balboa moment, a logo of the Steelers on the mirror all week, and just like grab it and rip it up and cue the music and let's go kick Drago's ass. That's what I'm feeling this week at home. Divisional matchup. I'll actually take the exact same score, oddly enough, but I'll flip the script. I like 2017. I think 5 points is just too much for the cover. But I do think the Browns will get it done. Jim, let all the fine folk that have tuned into our show here know where they can find all your great content.
Yeah, Twitter, you can find me at Jim Coventry NFL. I'm always doing live streams, and those also go through the RotoWire YouTube page. So definitely catch us there. You can catch me on Sirius XM on Saturdays from 1 to 3 Eastern is a Fantasy Sports Channel 87. And then on Sundays from 9 to 10 Eastern, it's a Power Pack pregame show. And of course, if you're a RotoWire subscriber, definitely catch me over there.
All right, guys, I don't want it to end. Like we've done the whole rundown. There's nothing else to talk about. I don't want to say goodbye to Jim, but I guess we'll see you next week. It's sad. Oh, Jim, I'll see you next week, folks. I'm Connor Rowntree. That's Jim Coventry. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next week.